If you find any bugs, let us know. You can post issues. Like,
why do you need EigenLayer?
I've used the other decentralized crypto.
Where are those fees coming from? And
we want to be the Bitcoin of cloud.
welcome to EigenLayer Unlocked, an interactive educational journey through the EigenLayer ecosystem created by technical founders and builders for the entire crypto community. A special thank you to our partners, AllLayer, Polymer, Authentic, Skate, and Lagrange for helping to make this happen. Our goal is to raise the collective knowledge of the EigenLayer AWS ecosystem and unpack the technical designs of the top teams in space. Welcome to EigenLayer Unlocked. Welcome to Singapore. We got two Andrews in this one.
Let's go, man.
When did you arrive?
I got in last night. No, not last night. The night before at like 10 p.m.
Yeah.
And then just stayed up till last night.
Yeah, jet lag is going to be something else.
Yeah.
I got in this morning at 6 a.m.
Yeah, you just got to pull.
I think I'm just going to push through.
You have to.
And then just crash.
You have to. And
I
then
think I might be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
one
you
day.
get on schedule. If you make it through the first day, it's like way easier. And then after that,
Yeah,
it's like,
because then you're not up all night.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
You're from Florida, right?
I am, yeah. Born and raised in Miami.
Nice. Are you a Dolphins fan?
I'm not. I'm a Steelers fan. There's a story behind
That's
it.
a
but
bummer, man.
Yeah. I'm a Steelers fan.
We don't need
yeah.
to get too much into that,
Yeah.
but nice. Do you like to go fishing?
I do. I don't have a lot of time for it anymore.
You're just too busy killing.
Yeah, just too busy. But fishing and golfing, those were like growing up. That was kind of like those were
Classic
my main
Florida
hobbies.
things.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
Nice. How'd you get into building Versatus?
So, my entire career, I've been a software engineer.
Nice.
Most of it focused on like machine learning and AI, like back in the day. So like
Before it was cool.
Yeah, before. Yeah. So I pulled the reverse pivot, right? I went from AI into crypto. My first startup was a AI data extraction company. But I was always kind of like adjacent to crypto. I was like paying attention very closely to what was happening in the space. I bought my first Bitcoin in 2013, bought my first ETH at the ICO. I was like very bullish on Ethereum. And basically like, as I followed the space, what I realized is that like blockchains are like this really, really great tool for this really small subset of very important problems, which is primarily like coordination. And then what I like to call like attribution of ownership. So blockchains are fantastic at that. But there's all these other things on the web that don't necessarily fit into that box. And I'm very ideological. I believe in like the purpose of the space. And so I saw that there's like a lot of opportunity to kind of tackle a bigger problem of kind of the rest of the web, right? So like financial, money, all of that happens on chain. But there's still a lot of stuff that happens off chain that powers a lot of the applications in the space. And so we wanted to provide the same sort of core qualities that blockchains give to money to web applications, mobile applications, and other web-based products.
Interesting. Do you think Versatus is going to go to the big leagues?
Definitely. I'm so bullish on Versatus because
Why?
I feel like we definitely need these like people to compete for like the best compute prices. So right now, if you see, and also the user experience, I've used like other, I won't name them, but I've used the other decentralized crypto EC2 equivalents, and they have like, it's so bad. Like they have their own front end. You can't really SSH into it. It's like so terrible.
He's seen the demo.
I've seen the demo.
Yeah.
Yes, demo is so bullish. But like overall, like Versatus model, like the pricing model is very optimal for like people to like one of the greatest use case I'm seeing is like people can get a Versatus instance, run a ETH validator, and then like go to Puffer and like get like bunch of like they have DVTs, so you can put some stake and like for very cheap like run a validator. So I think
so it's like a fraction of the cost of using like a centralized cloud provider.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think like the node operator, and then on top of that, you get like the resiliency of it being decentralized. So we use a technique called AJ clustering, which has been around for a really long time, but hasn't really been applied to this space, which basically guarantees like in the event of a failure of your instance, it'll automatically reboot on a different machine. And then like developers can select their replication factor. So if you want 3 nodes in your cluster, you want 10 nodes in your cluster, and then our protocol actually optimizes the geographic distribution. So, we'll have validators, we'll have node operators that are all around the globe, and we'll be able to allocate, okay, you'll have one instance in Europe, one in East Asia, one in North America, one in South America. There's also other benefits that come along with that. Like, when you have users in those different places, the number of hops that those users have to take to reach your application shrinks dramatically. Whereas right now, like technically speaking, you could do this on AWS, but you have to manage all of it yourself. So nobody does. And so then when, US East Ohio goes down, because whatever, there's a storm or there's a cyber attack or something happens, all of these applications are offline. Yep. And the crazy thing is a lot of these things that are hosted are like, they're critical components of our daily lives. So during the CrowdStrike outage, which I'm sure you remember, like 7 weeks ago, like obviously airlines and all that, but one of the untold stories of that was like there were major cities where their 911 operators, their emergency services, you couldn't contact them.
Really?
Yeah, because they're all running their phone routers through the cloud. Right. And so people died because this infrastructure, we've built it, I like to say we built it on a foundation of sand. Right. It's all centralized. There's single points of attack, single points of failure. And this is like really critical infrastructure. Even like Department of Homeland Security uses AWS. Yeah. Obviously, like most major applications around the globe use AWS or Google Cloud. So building a more resilient foundation for the modern web, I think, is really, really important, and it's a fantastic use case for both EigenLayer.
Yeah, I was gonna say, why do you need EigenLayer?
Yeah, so I think it's like a really, really good question, which we get a lot. Like, why not just build this as your own network, or like build it as an L1? Right. So the capital expenditure, if we want to think in like business terms, of building this on our own would be massive.
For sure.
We would have to basically like inflate our token away.
You need a bootstrap consensus and economic security.
You need a bootstrap security.
Which, like, why would I trust you to be the foundation that's not made of sand if you're running your own, set of, 50 nodes?
Exactly.
You might as well use the most battle-tested, decentralized smart contract platform.
Exactly. And so for us, using EigenLayer allows us to not only tap into their node operator network, which a lot of them have a lot of excess compute, so it helps us bootstrap supply, but also to tap into the economic security component of it. And like our whole model is we prove liveness. So we prove the state of the instances and that they're available.
Okay. And so slashing would come in there if there's some downtime or kind of
unannounced downtime. Right. So in some cases, you're going to need to maintain your hardware or something like that. You're going to have to go offline. So we do it in windows. So you register to be available for that window. Okay. And then you can, if the next window you can opt out of if you need to like maintain your hardware or whatever the case is, or maybe like if it's just not profitable right now for you to run the node, you can back out. So it's not just like once you register, you're locked in forever and you may get slashed if you go offline.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
There's flexibility there. But that then also allows us, our slashing condition gets paid back to the people that are disadvantaged by that scenario occurring.
So it's like the users.
Right. So it's like an SLA insurance model where we can actually make sure that in the event that we don't meet our SLA, it's not technically like an SLA the way it is.
What is an SLA?
A service level agreement. It's like very common in like cloud world.
Right.
So
well, you can't save the people who try to call 911, but
Right. Exactly. But the company that was affected by it,
correct.
The phone routing company. Yes. Who they also then have an SLA with the city, right? They're going to lose business because of that,
right?
So now all of a sudden, how did they get reimbursed? They're losing business because of AWS. Like AWS will give them like some compute credits or something like that, right? Like or like they'll just beg them to stay, or like you're not going to go anywhere else because there's nowhere else to go. So we're offering an alternative, but we're also offering a better economic model for the users. In the event that we're not able to make good on our promises to you, you get reimbursed for the disadvantage. So that the combination of those two things, I think this is where like slashing comes in. Yeah. And the new slashing model that EigenLayer released recently is like very relevant to us because we don't want to be in a position where we're having to share our economic security with other AVSs.
Right. Right. So, you don't want like the contamination risk.
Correct.
Basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a spicy question?
Go for it.
I think infra is commoditized down heavily, where there's not a lot of moat around this idea. Either I can fork your code or I can kind of do something very similar and then either just charge less or kind of like not charge at all. The spicy question is like, how do you make money and how do you build a moat around this?
So we are building this as like a decentralized protocol, and so the labs organization, we don't make money.
Right.
The token holders do, the stakers do, the operators do. 100% of the protocol fees that come into our network go directly to those entities. So that's one aspect of it. And so the question is, how much money do they actually need to make?
Yeah, and like where are those fees coming from, and how do you like you can't avoid them trending to zero if it's going to happen, but how do you maximize without being like overly rent seeking, I think.
So
I don't know.
Yeah, and hopefully they do approach zero, because that means like all of our users are getting cheaper and cheaper infrastructure.
Right.
I don't think they ever reach zero, but they come close to it. Margins will approach zero as well.
Yeah.
Right now, margins in the cloud compute world are about 45% net margins. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, like these companies print money. There's only like 4 really big ones.
Right.
But they just print money. And so there's a long time between now and when those margins approach zero.
Agreed.
When they start to approach zero, I think like we're all probably better off for that. But that doesn't mean that fees go to zero.
No.
There's still hardware costs. There's still electricity costs. There's still bandwidth costs that the providers have to pay for. And so anybody who's providing this service will need to make some money so that they can pay for those services. Now, in terms of it being commoditized, yes, we're completely open source. Even right now, even though we haven't actually launched yet, all of our code is already open source. You can go check out our GitHub. You can read through it. If you find any bugs, let us know. You can post issues. So we're very pro open source, and I think the moat, frankly, comes from distribution.
Okay.
The winner in this particular space, decentralized cloud or whatever you want to refer to it as, yes, maybe they have slightly better product features. But underneath the hood, a lot of the technology we're using has been around for a while. Mm-hmm. There are some innovations that we've made, but a lot of the technology has been around for a while. Where our moat comes from is our ability to go out and acquire business and acquire users who are developers in our world to actually come and use our platform. So, and I think a lot of the decentralized compute platforms today have not done a great job of distribution. I think that's where we really... We approach this from a different position. We know who our customer is. We know what they're looking for, what the USP that we're going to deliver to them is, and we treat it more like a business. Even though we're not in the business of capturing those fees directly, we're capturing them for our network. We do approach it from a growth mindset.
Also, if you see the nearest competitor, they don't really have SLAs. They have I tried to spin up a node and I get multiple bids, let's say, and they have uptime, and it's sometimes 90% and you get cheap. But I want 100% uptime, dude. 99% is also fine. But.
Yeah, I actually I tell people what we're building is an infinite uptime layer.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the goal, is we want to be the Bitcoin of cloud.
Yeah.
We don't ever want to go down. And that means it's not going to be, for certain use cases, it's not the right solution.
Yeah.
If you're a high frequency trading firm, you need co-location with the exchange. So you need your servers to be in the same building as the exchange servers. We're not the right use case for that. That's fine. We're not going to capture everything. But for e-commerce, we're a great solution for, because you can actually serve from the edge, very close to your user, and you can scale out your instances to this global network of compute. And then for things like gaming and high graphic intensive use cases, the closer you are, the lower the latency is, the less lag there is. So there's certain use cases that we're really, really good for. And just focusing on those and being able to go and capture big players in those markets, or capture growing players in the markets might even be more important. But starting out small, we have a lot of partnerships with other crypto projects that have committed to building on us when we launch. And then moving into the small, medium business, the startup world, sort of going after that market that Versatus and Fly and some of those providers have captured pretty well. And then eventually we'll get to the bigger enterprises where there's big bucks. But I think we need to prove resiliency, reliability. We need to prove performance. And that's going to take a few years to do.
So last thing as we kind of wrap up is what's next on the agenda for the next couple months. We're in October now. It's it's almost the end of the year. What's coming?
So we do have Devnet basically teed up to launch. We haven't decided on a date yet.
It's probably going to be launched by the time this comes out.
Possibly, yeah. So we're it's coming very, very soon. That's going to be those initial 50 partners that we've already discussed building on us, and we'll probably scale that up a little bit before we go public, at least so we can figure out like what does that experience look like. And then a big part of what we need to do is continue to acquire supply in strategic locations. And so doing a lot of business development with node operators, with data centers to go out and make sure that we have the compute supply so that we can scale. We're targeting a mainnet launch early next year. So we'll probably be in Devnet and then do a public testnet for a few months and then go to mainnet. And then, obviously token launch at some point as well.
Fantastic.
Cool.
Well, thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's been a pleasure.
Fantastic.
Thank you.